Okay, so we're going to start our reading with the card in the first position. And this card represents our question. We have, in the first position, we have the card representing justice. Justice is equality. It is doing what is right. Level-headedness and judgment. Don't let yourself feel overwhelmed. Doing the right thing is the most difficult thing. Justice, when it represents the question, is usually a question of fairness, a question of right and wrong, a question of perhaps a question of law, maybe. You know, somebody's in trouble with the law. Let's move on to our next card here. This is what the second card here is what's in opposition or crosses the question. So here we have the Ten of Pentacles. The Ten of Pentacles represents family, represents communion, cooperation, love, and family ties. So the Pentacles are going to represent. The Pentacles are going to represent wealth, family, inheritance, maybe. This might be a question about whether one family member is being treated more fairly than another family member. Could be also pertaining to work in the same relationship. Could be, money in general. So what is in opposition to our question of fairness looks like it's a question of family or money, of definitely possession. We're now into the third position, which represents the visible or obvious part of the question, and we have here the Seven of Cups, the Seven of Chalices. So this is going to represent imagination, inspiration, desire, ambition, the ability to charm our chimeras. I guess that's what they're calling this, a chimera. It looks more like a dragon to me, like a Tyrian or something, but they're called chimera. You can't have everything immediately. So this card is representing the sense of reality. You can't have everything immediately. This is pretty fitting for this particular thing. If it's a question of fairness in the family or fairness at work, it looks like, at least on the surface, you require accepting of that. But it can also mean that you are maybe the one that's you're perhaps being too ambitious. Let's move on to our next card here, which is the card that represents the part of the question that we don't see. If the question is of equality and justice, the part of the question that we don't see is the Emperor. Now, the Emperor represents the archetypical male. It represents control, represents protection, strength, and responsibility. The right to rule is not derived from force, but humility. This card represents either perhaps because of this card here, where the obvious part is that perhaps you're content with the way things are, but perhaps you should be more portable. Perhaps you should be more trying to take control of your own destiny. You should be more paternal, more father-like, perhaps. Let's move on here to our next card. In the fifth position, representing the past as far as this question goes, we have the King of Swords. The King of Swords is a thought is faced with criticism. We have a card that represents the masculine side of power, the masculine side of intelligence, the more domineering, the more aggressive side of intelligence and power, fighting off criticism. Now, when a face card shows up in a spread, that generally represents a person. It could represent a father figure. Perhaps your father was an authoritarian. Perhaps your father was a very powerful and dominant man. But it doesn't necessarily have to be a man. It could also represent a very powerful and dominant woman. the sword of justice and the sword of the King of Spades, they're very similar, right? The sword is what you use to cut to the bottom of the issue. So if it's a question of fairness, and this card being in the past, it would represent, in the past, perhaps conflict with the person that card represented. Now we're going to flip over the sixth position, which represents the future, as from the perspective of the question of justice or fairness. And we have here for the future, we have the Six of Wands. Is that the second wand in this one? No, it's not. We have the Six of Wands. The Six of Wands is going to represent communication. We have a woman riding on a horse with a banner. Messages, diplomacy, discussion, peace offerings. So what this is telling us is that if the question is of money or inheritance or work, that in the future there's going to be an understanding or some type of a message to look forward to. It could be a message. It's going to be some communication in the future that is going to have a bearing on this question. Next, we're going to look at the card in our seventh position, which is that of you, the person asking the question. This card represents you. And what we have here is the Prince of Coin. So the Prince of Coin is an appropriate card for it's an appropriate card. It's the page in the normal tarot deck. This would be the Page of Cups. I'm sorry, the Page Coins. No, the Page of Coin. The Page of Coin is the birth of an interest, the curiosity between initial contact and the world. So this card would represent you as a young entrepreneur, young enterprising young person. It would reinforce the idea that this is a question of family or a question of apprenticeship, something like that. It's very ironic how these things work out. We have a coin here and we have a coin here, and so that's that just kind of strengthens the idea of family and some kind of a work-related question here. But this is very favorable for the card for you. We now have this card that is the point of view of everybody else, and this is the Four of Cups. So now we have a second cup in this set as well. Is the Four of Cups. The Four of Cups represents idly wasting your time. Or it represents habits. It represents doing the same thing, indifferent to the news, a loss of time, care and patience for the little things. So this card is somewhat in harmony with the Seven of the Seven here, which represents the Seven of Cups, which we had is the view of the obvious part of the question. The question that was obvious is in harmony with the part of the question that is the point of view of others, which is that you maybe are dividing your time, you are waiting for something, you're looking for you're fine with the result as it currently is. You have a sense of reality about the situation. You realize you can't have everything immediately. But from the point of view of others, that's not exactly what it appears to them. It appears to them like maybe you're wasting time. You're not focusing on what you should be focused on. Which would also reference back to this card here, the Emperor being in fourth position.